the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy presents a virtually viral conversation with Chicago Public Schools scholars.
Well, I'm going to get this started by passing the mic.
I'm free again at 2.
Wonderful. I'm going to be passing the microphone to my colleague, Lauren McClanahan, who has agreed to facilitate this session. Lauren and I, we should have met a long time ago, but for whatever reason we didn't. But we got to be fast friends through our shared experience at virtually viral hangouts. For 59 sessions from March 19th to June 1st, we met on Zoom every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we talked about our hopes and fears and dreams. We supported each other through the crisis. And Laura, I will be forever grateful to you for coming into my life in that unbelievable way. I hope someday to give you a hug and meet you in person, but you are right. We got a virtual hug going on here. And Lauren, just take it away.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was a little too much. Thank you, Renee. And yeah, I have to admit I was a little starstruck because I've read Renee's books and I, stumbled upon this virtually viral and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Renee Hobbs. So it's kind of exciting for me too. I want to welcome everybody today to the Virtually Viral Hangout. And it was something that I looked forward to every day in those dark days, especially of the beginning of the pandemic. And just to connect, to do some emotional connection with like-minded people, which we're going to do in a minute. Let me introduce myself really quickly. My name's Lauren McClanahan, and I am a professor of secondary education at Western Washington University. We're a small, Division IIA school up in the very northwest corner of Washington between Seattle and Vancouver, BC. And I'm in the secondary education department. Literacy is my focus, and more it's been trending towards digital literacy over the past few years. And I run a nonprofit organization for students, for K-12 students, the Bellingham Youth Media Project in Bellingham, Washington. I work closely with teachers to try to help them integrate filmmaking and photography into their classrooms, and especially like documentary style filmmaking. We put on a big festival every year. This year's festival, of course, was virtual, but we managed to get some films made even in the pandemic. So, and I also have a photography website, my conceptual framework photography. And I do weddings too, but only like second and third weddings. I won't shoot first weddings because there's a lot of other people out there that are better than me, and all my friends are on like their second and third marriages anyway. So it's just way more fun to shoot second weddings. I've tried the first weddings. No. And I'm super cheap too. So it's like a great deal all around, because you're not going to pay $5,000 for photos the second time around. You're smarter than that, I hope. So anyhow, that's a little bit about me. And I am excited to do a quick emotional check-in with everyone. I don't know if you've been doing the mood meter specifically for the past couple of sessions. Okay, well, the mood meter, let me share my screen. And I'm gonna bring the mood meter to the front. And the mood meter comes from, I think it's out of, oh gosh, it's either the Harvard, somebody probably knows and can correct me, but our school district in Bellingham has adopted this language for helping students learn how to talk about and identify their feelings. And so something that we did during virtual viral hangouts was we spend a decent amount of time at the beginning of each session, just checking in with how we feel that day. And so we're using this mood meter to help us find the words for that. So what we do is we practice using our annotation tools. And I'm not sure how much practice you have with that. If you can go up to the top of your screen, on your Zoom screen, and find the annotate tool. And it could be under the more section, I'm not sure. Maybe it just says annotate at the very top. And what I usually do is I like to find a stamp, either a stamp or the drawing tool, and just take a look at the words and then put a mark near the word that best describes you, how you're feeling right now. And it's sometimes hard to pin it down to just one word, but I do this with my university students too, at Western Washington, and they're all preparing to be middle school and high school teachers. And so it's, you know, near finals time, near midterms time, all the words start to kind of shift to the left. We're getting into the blues and reds a little bit. At the beginning of the quarter, everybody's in the yellows and greens. It's fun to look for patterns in this over time with your students. So I'm seeing more in the yellow and green for sure, but there's some red and some blue. And the thing about this is that it's nothing's wrong or right or good or bad. It's just how you're feeling in this moment. Oh, and I see somebody wrote "ack" on this. You can add your own words too if you don't see the precise word there. So I'd love to invite a few people to share why you chose the word that you did on the mood meter. So would somebody like to unmute themselves and just briefly share why you chose your word?
And does anybody need help using the annotation tool for the first time? Yes, Diana? Diana, unmute your...
I
Sorry
do.
about that.
I need help.
I can't seem to find them.
Let's do a little tutorial on annotation. Up at the top of the screen, you see a thing that says, you are viewing Lauren McClanahan's screen, right? And then there's a little bar that says view options. And if you click on view options, you're gonna see the word annotate.
Okay.
And when you click on the word annotate, a little bar will pop up and it'll give you some choices to use a stamp, like a heart sign or a check mark or a draw sign. And you can change the color. You can use an arrow. The only thing that's important to remember is that when you're done using the annotate, you have to click out of it with the X, the red X bar. Otherwise, every time you move your mouse, you'll leave a trail. All right, sorry about that, Lauren. Who wants to share something why you circled what you circled?
I'll jump in. It's Kathy Jackson, and I could not pick one, so I picked two. And I picked energized because I'm energized by all the conversation that is going on. And I'm also grateful for that those same conversations and opportunity.
Beautiful. Who's next?
I'll go. I marked restless, and it's because I have too many things going on right now. I really wanted to make it a point to be here today. I have a phone call coming up at 2. Want to hit a film festival screening this afternoon, and I have a video I'm editing. So the great thing is there's a lot going on. The bad thing is it's tough to focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing. Who's next?
Mm-hmm. I chose motivated and inspired. Because over the last couple of days, you know, every session, the keynote from the keynotes to the digging deeper, and every aspect all along the way, everything's been inspiring and it's motivating me.
Thanks for sharing. Who's next?
I think we should cheer up the people in the blue.
There's a possibility, but we're just going to own our feelings. We're not going to have to fix anybody's feelings. We just want to honor them. If somebody is in the blue, could you talk to us a little bit about what's going on there?
I'll talk. I circled 4 things in the lower left there, and I wrote act. You know, it's partly is just sort of the feelings about what the pandemic is causing in my family. But I think, you know, in a way, although I do lots of things online, I think attending an institute entirely online has been somewhat stressful to me. And I maybe feel partly that because I'm not sure that I'm finding my tribe here. I'm not an educator. And though I am a librarian, I am not a frontline librarian. And so I feel like, you know, my classroom activity is pretty minimal. So most of my concerns are about administration. And I have ideas about projects, but I'm not entirely sure how they fit into an educator's model. So that's kind of why I'm feeling miserable and lonely and sullen and depressed.
Thank you for sharing. Would somebody else like to share their feelings?
So Stephen, I wanted to say I relate so well because this is a wonderful, wonderful setting and workshop, but the past 4 months of being isolated from students and school community, it's almost like a feeling that we're back 4 months ago in that same kind of panic. And I love whoever said we were doing emergency teaching. For those of us who are teaching, it wasn't that we were trained to do what we were trained to do, just as no one has been trained to survive a pandemic. So yesterday I was in the blue with you, and then somehow today I was able a little bit, you know, and maybe the family issues going on can take a toll. So I send you all my love.
Thank you for that beautiful support. Lauren, we probably need to move on to the next activity to stay on track because we have so much cool conversation to get to.
Yes, and I am going to figure out how to, let me see, how to clear, there we go. I'm gonna clear the drawings and I'm going to click on the red X so I don't leave a trail and close out my mood meter. Thank you for that participation. The mood meter check-in, like I said, it's something that I actually used with my university students when we went online. And I think they appreciated that. I don't know that any other professors were spending that kind of time, maybe thinking that it wasn't a good use of time since our time became so precious. But I thought it was an excellent use of time to get just to check in, and my students agreed. So I'm wondering if everybody saw in the chat, I put a link to this Google slide presentation, and I can do that again. Let me resend this link. Whoops, let me send it to, okay, let's see if this will work. So I just now sent a link in the chat, and my hope is that everybody will be able to click on that link in the chat and it will take you to these Google Slides, which you hopefully will be able to edit very shortly. Can I get a thumbs up if people can see the slides on my screen at least? Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, and I'll give some people a little bit of time to navigate to the slides. And what we're gonna do, let me see, I have my little cheat sheet right here, is the first thing I wanna do before we do the, oh, I skipped something, oh my gosh. Let me tell you what we're gonna do today, and then I'm gonna have the teachers that we're gonna be listening to introduce themselves. We're gonna do a little exercise today about the art of active listening. And we have some teacher guests today from Chicago. And what we're going to do is they're going to introduce themselves real briefly to the whole group. And then we're going to go over the kind of the instructions for this activity as a whole group. Then we're going to break out, Renee is going to break us into smaller groups. And we're each going to be put in a room with one of our teacher guests. And as that teacher tells their story, we're going to be taking some notes because we're going to be actively listening. We're going to be taking some notes on the Google Slides. But before we get into the activity, let's see, Renee, should I stop sharing my screen and then let the teachers introduce themselves, or should I?
I think your next slide, if you go, what's your next slide? Yeah, okay, so let's stop sharing and we'll meet the Chicago teachers for a brief introduction.
Okay.
Should I call on you? Jamie Rue.
Hey, hi. Yes, I am Jamie Rue. Happy Wednesday once again. I am a K-8 school library media specialist at Providence Inglewood Charter School on Chicago South Side. And I am very happy to be here. I've been media literate all my life since loving commercials. I think that was my introduction to it, and thinking about why is this commercial here at this show, on this TV show, and not this other one. So who knew? I guess somebody else did, but I'm happy to be here and with all of you.
We are really glad you're here too. Next up, Nicole.
Oh, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I just dismissed my summer school class. I'm Nicole Lewis Dickens. I am 8th grade English language arts teacher at Beethoven Elementary School on the south side of Chicago. I am at National Louis University in their doctoral program of reading, language, and literacy. I am going into my 25th year in education. I know I only look 25, I know. I'm happy to be here, and I'm learning so much from this institute. So I'm just really excited. Nice to meet you all.
Next up is Jeanette.
Hi, I'm Jeanette. I work on the north side of Chicago, but and I always thought I would never be able to work on the north side because that's where everybody wants to work. Those of you who are Chicago teachers, you know the segregated city, how segregated the city is. I'm actually 2 years away from retirement. Out of there. I want to do something else. I do want to do something with media and online teaching in the future.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jeanette. Next up is LaDwanda.
Hi, I'm LaDwanda Hill, and I am the early childhood specialist for, in Chicago, we're broken up into networks. So I service Network 13, which is far south, east side schools. I service approximately 31 schools and about 67 teachers in the primary grades. I'm an NLU scholar. I'm in a doctoral program in administration there. And I'm just so happy to be here. I'm looking forward to filling my toolbox with resources in order to be an effective instructional coach during this remote learning time. Thank you.
Wonderful. Keviana Smith-Ray. I don't see her on the list here. So Zan, is it okay if I call on you? Zan, are you a Chicago public school teacher? No, she's not. Who else? Raise your hand. Who else does I have in the room there? Trisha, introduce yourself. We're gonna put you on the team.
I'm Trisha. I'm also a librarian in Chicago Public Schools. I'm at Mark Sheridan Academy in the Bridgeport neighborhood, and I serve kids in kindergarten up to 8th grade.
Wonderful. Okay, Lauren, explain the task, and then we'll break them into groups and we'll let them do the art of listening. They'll practice the art of listening to these Chicago public school teachers.
Fantastic. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about active listening. And as our guests are speaking to us and telling their stories about teaching, I don't know if the stories, I'm not sure if the stories about teaching during the pandemic or just more general stories about teaching or just kind of whatever people want to share. There's things that we can do as audience members, even on Zoom, even in a remote setting, to show that we're actively listening. Like affirmative body language. This can maybe include turning your camera on, maybe kind of exaggerated nodding, or sometimes I'll agree with somebody, or I'll put my thumbs up really close to the camera, you know, some things I've learned from Renee Hobbs. Maybe things like asking clarifying questions, such as, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Or this is what I heard. Here's what I heard you say. Let me ask you something else about that. And then recording, like as we're listening, the point of this exercise is hopefully to be, as we're listening, and if we hear something that kind of resonates with us, we are going to write it down on the Google slide for each person, the person that we're in the room with. And then this way, I love doing activities like this with my students, because then we have a durable written record of what we've created in class. You know, if it's one thing I've learned from Renee over the short time I've known her, it's that it's so helpful that when we co-create something in class, it really helps us to think more deeply about that. And so that's what we're going to try to do today, is co-create. And what I've done, and we may have to, somebody in each group, I don't know, I think the first thing to do is, well, no, we don't have to have a scribe. Anybody can add to the slides. We may have to change some names though, because what I did was I have names, and if those people aren't in attendance, we may just have to switch some names.
I'll fix that.
I have 5 slides. Each one has a lovely Pacific Northwest view, because that's where I live. So that's what I take pictures of.
Hey, if teachers want, if the team wants to change the images or manipulate the slide in any way, is that okay?
Yeah, because that's the beauty of it. We can put in whatever we want. So if they want to put in a picture of themselves or a Chicago picture or whatever, think of it as just a placeholder. It's what I had on my computer. So
got it. But I do think it's important to say that Jamie, Trisha, Jeanette, Nicole, and LaDwanda are the folks who are talking, and the other people in the room are the active listeners who are annotating and marking up and creating their reflections. Give me a thumbs up if you understand Lauren's really creative protocol, Lauren. Love this protocol. I think it's going to be cool. We've never done anything like this before, but that's partly what makes it so fun. All right, the rooms are opening. You're going to have about 15 minutes to get to know each other and get a deep dive into our Chicago Public Schools McCormick Foundation Scholars. Rooms are opening now. Go make a new friend.
Renee, I didn't get put in a breakout room.
Okay, let me move you into a breakout room. Carolyn, I'm going to assign you to breakout room 1. Marta, I'm going to assign you to breakout room 2. Sophie, I'm going to assign you to breakout room 3. Ashley, I'm going to assign you to breakout room 4. Just click on that link and you'll be entering into your room.
have to use this, but really, and not stalking them online, but figuring out how to make appointments and all of that. If you can do it, LaDwanda, with 31 schools and 67 teachers, I surely can do it with my 10 adjunct teachers. So thank you.
Thank you, Zan. That was fantastic. That's a great summary. Yeah, LaDwanda's doing, she's doing the Lord's work, as we used to say down in North Carolina when I taught 8th grade. Yes. Oh, good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Let's see. Jeanette. No, wait. Jamie. It looks like Jamie's group is up next. Who'd like to speak about what you talked about?
Really, just one key idea that impressed you would be good enough.
Don't be shy.
I'll jump in. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I also taught in Chicago for several years. So I really loved listening to everything Jamie said. Jamie does so much in her school. She wears so many different hats. She's just an amazing person. I loved everything she had to say about social justice, what's going on right now, and how it's so long overdue. I know I myself have marched in protest, and I can't wait to go back to school and talk to my students about it and to see what we can do to make this world better. So I just loved hearing, everything she had to say. I mean, she talked about her own kids, she talked about kids that, a personal story with a student, but it was really engaging and great to hear.
Thank you. Thank you for that summary. Who's next? Jeanette. Jeanette, could I have somebody from Jeanette's group? Just maybe one key concept that you took away. By the way, I love how people are manipulating the Google Slides. I love that you're adding some new visuals too. That's pretty awesome. Jeanette's group. You can't be shy. We're all such nice people.
I'll give it a go.
Yes.
Jeanette she teaches ESL, and she had a really great discussion about how kids would sometimes nod their head yes, but she knew by her experience that they were really saying no. They didn't understand what they were being told. And she talked about techniques like asking questions herself of clarity to see if the students are really on point and were following along. Because a lot of times people want to get along. They don't want to be the nail that sticks out higher than the others and gets banged down. So, really making sure that no child, to use the phrase, gets left behind, if you will, to make sure that the kids understand what they need. And the other heartbreaking story was how you might never know what a child is going through. And our emotional check-ins really is a great tool to reveal this. But she told a story about a child who was having a birthday, and her mom lived in I believe it was Iran. And as she was buying the cake at the grocery store, talking to the child on the phone, a bomb blew off and killed her. And that kid's sitting with his head down, and she's getting a hard time from an administrator. Why are you letting the kid keep his head down? So that we never know what is happening on another kid's life. And I'll just add one more. She talked about how kids are, some kids don't want to be seen on Zoom because their background she might find out by looking, they don't even have a bed in their room. And just to add that on, we've talked about that in our district. Get a $1 plastic tablecloth to hang as a background, so there's a sense of privacy, because there's such a variation of that. Shouldn't be an issue in the classroom. But it is, because we're going into their homes literally. And I'm talking too much. I'm going to pass it on to someone else.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Wow. That's I'm going to have to think about that one for a little bit longer. Yeah, I had a student who never did turn his camera on last quarter, a college student, and I didn't press him either. I just let him keep it off because I didn't know him. Trisha, oh man, they dominated their Google slide. Nice work, Trisha's group. Who would like to summarize for this group? Summarize is the wrong word. One thing that you thought that made you think that you thought that you could resonate with.
I always feel like I'm talking. So if anybody else wants to jump in, please cut me off. But this was a really great conversation, and I really liked hearing from a librarian, specifically a K-8 librarian. I always work at the high school level. And so Trisha was saying things like, how can she as a librarian, where they're going to have this split schedule with, half the kids Monday, Tuesday, half the kids Thursday, Friday, the teachers already have limited time with the kids. How can she be very meaningful this year rather than just following for compliance, like doing things that she's being directed to do? How can her role as a librarian be very meaningful? And this conversation resonated with me a lot because I think librarians really are, like, I worked in a school with no librarian for lots of years, and now I work in a school with a rock star librarian, which I think Trisha is one. And I think, like, Trisha's thinking a lot about, like, how to do physical book checkouts for young kids who need to hold that book in their hand and don't prefer ebooks. How can she teach parents and families how to navigate the digital library, place holds? She's thinking also about these questions about equity and like curriculum and things like that. We're all talking about a lot of things at once and having to do a lot of things at once. And I think Trisha's thinking so thoughtfully about her role in the school.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. I'm looking at so much on that slide. One African-American teacher in the entire school. We have that same problem in our school district where I am. Multi-generational families living together. What a conversation you all had. Wow. You're gonna have to go lie down for a minute. I hope you don't have something at 2 o'clock. Oh my gosh. Where to? Nicole, look at this fantastic slide. Who can talk about something that resonated with you in Nicole's group?
So Lauren, it's Kristen, and everybody who knows me knows how very hard it is for me to shut my mouth and just listen. And I might cry when I tell this story listening to Nicole, because my first year of teaching, I taught in Coatesville, and I taught in a place where they were tearing the projects down. And here I was, a white teacher with almost all Black students. I was a track coach, and we pulled up to our suburban district and for our first track meet, and the kids all looked around and said, they don't have, they ain't got no Black kids on their team. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's no white students at my school at all. And how do I even relate? And how did this happen? And so having the opportunity to hear that, to hear from her the history of the Chicago Public Schools and talk about her extended family and the way that she grew up with those role models and those teachers, how, even today, she's a daddy girl, working on her doctorate. So I found a screenshot that said, I'm a Black woman working on my doctorate, don't underestimate me. And so I was just so appreciative to have the opportunity to learn so much more about how I started my teaching career and why I'm in this game. But yeah, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. When I see that I'm a Black woman working on my doctorate, I think of Bettina Love's work. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Bettina Love and her book, We Want to Do More Than Just Survive, but she speaks a lot about that. I use Bettina Love's work with my students. It's pretty powerful. Wow.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about Nicole's. We did have a magical conversation, but she told a story of a student who she felt especially connected to, and watching this young girl basically achieve and thrive and prosper, and the story she told about how her 2 young adult sons are thriving and doing great, and she sees these kids who aren't. And I feel like, and the story, how about the story? 15, she's taught for 15 years, and she's had 15 of her students, mostly young African-American men, die of gun violence. Like, that broke my heart. And I feel like, you know, Nicole, your strength and your courage and your faith and your integrity, what challenges you are, big challenges you are trying to solve, and yet doing it with from such a place of grace, you know, from such a place of like, we make the actions we can make where we are. And I just was really inspired by your leadership and your love. So I felt like I got a real treat. I think it was a really great breakout group. Listen, so here's the thing. We've got to head off to our next thing. So Lauren, what a cool protocol, teaching us about the art of listening through this activity. So little applause for Lauren and that great protocol. What a great way to get to know the CPS teachers. I just want to say that we're really grateful to the McCormick Foundation for sponsoring the Chicago Public School teachers under leadership of Rob Mueller and the National Lewis University team with Ryan McCarty and Sophie and Ruth. We just really feel grateful that you're part of the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy. But now remember, virtually viral friends, we'll see you tomorrow, and we have a special guest tomorrow. Carolyn Fortuna is going to talk to us about all kinds of cool stuff. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
I hope so. Bye, everyone.